Mattresses are for rent. I do not accept this lease. Alrighty, here's where we're going to do a little tutorial. I was asked by a guy, I think his name is, or doesn't, I don't know if he's a guy or not, Office Bear. Some YouTube user named Office Bear, who's my best friend ever, because I think he could very well be my only subscriber. And this is the first request that I've had. Hopefully my microphone is working, because I don't want this to take a long time. My lips are numb, so sorry if I slur words. Basically, I was asked to do I think he called it a safety inspection video. That can mean a few different things. What I think he means is a pre-ride inspection. And if you've ever taken the MSF course, MSF course, they have an acronym, mnemonic actually, called t-clocs. And you'll pardon me, I'm a seasoned rider of 1.5 years about who doesn't remember exactly what all of the words are. TCLOCS, t-clocs. So I think I'll talk about that first, and then go into a few other things that I like to check, or not, as the case may be. Typically, if it's a bike that's new to me or that I've never ridden before, I will do an inspection on it before every single ride, like a full everything across the board, a good look over. That helps me know more about the bike, get to know it better, what its little characteristics are, its little, thingies. Oh, minimum once a week. I'll put it that way. Minimum of once a week you want to try to go through this, even if you're fully accustomed to the bike. T stands for tires. You want to get down pretty close and get intimate with your tires. Not that intimate, just enough to, like, hey baby, how you doing? No, none of that. You're looking for, first and foremost, tread wear. These tires are doing awesome. I put a ton of miles on them, and there's still all manner of tread. Almost all tires, if not all, will have wear indicators on them. I'm trying to see if I can even find them on this one. You'll know because it's a little bump in the tread. Maybe when we get up to the front wheel, it'll be obvious. I think there's one. I don't know if you can see that. Once your tread is down to there, the tire's toast. There should be one in the middle here too, but I'm not quite seeing it in the zigzag. Anyway, tread wear, check for cracking. If you're not the one who bought the tires, look at the date code. All tires will have a date code on them. On this one, I think it's 2412. I think is the date code. That would mean, what, the 24th week of 2012? Which wouldn't make any sense. I'll have to go look that up and put a link in the description to tire codes, because I bought these in 2013 and I thought they were newer than that. But sometimes you get a tire that's like a year old. No biggie. A tire that's more than like 5 years old is kind of the upper limit of what most people would trust. Okay, so because tires do have a shelf life, I've seen people riding around on tires that probably came with a bike, and this is like a vintage bike, like 1981 or something. That's a no-no. Those tires are hard. They will dump you on your ass. Just don't do that. Get new rubber. Seriously. You want to try and spin the tire. If the tire has a center stand like this, or the bike has a center stand like this one does, spin it around. Check for objects in the tire. If it doesn't have a center stand, I guess try and roll the bike forward, maybe 3 times or 2 times, to give it a good look over. Look for foreign objects. Look for damage. Look for cracked sidewalls. Any cracking on the sidewall is to be is kind of an emergency, a big warning sign. And also tire pressure is very important. Now, as for what the tire pressure should be, that really varies a lot. Even if you have the same bike, the same tires, 2 different riders, because they're different weight or carry different cargo, will need different tire pressures. In my case, I've run, I'm trying to remember, I think I run 31 in the front and 35 in the rear. I have to go home and look. I'm, scatterbrained right now because I'm trying to rush through this a little bit. But again, I know people who have this same bike. They run 36 on both the front and the back. It depends. Maybe this is another thing where I'll put in the description a link to. Some people say that the ideal tire pressure is when the tire pressure is exactly 10% higher when the tire is warm than when it's cold. And it takes some figuring out to get exactly to that point. But so C is next. C stands for like chain and chassis. Chain, you want to look for the chain. A chain should never be tight. There should be some slack, something like an inch. It can vary depending on the bike and the chain, the size of the chain. But something like 1 inches to 2 inches slack, up and down, top to bottom motion. My chain is just has slightly more slack than I like, but I think it's still within acceptable parameters, so I'm not going to bother adjusting it today. Chassis refers to your suspension. So go ahead and sit on the bike. I don't think I'll do it right now. Oh yeah, well, why the hell not? Let's take it off the center stand. Sit on the bike. It should sag when you sit on it a little bit. Not much, maybe an inch or 2. And then to check the front suspension, hold in the brake lever, the front brake only, and then push. And you should get some, you should kind of spring back. You should get some fork travel going. You can't really see it because maybe you can see that. These forks are a little more springy than I like right now because they need to be rebuilt, and probably new springs as well. These are quite likely the original springs. Oh, come on. Up to Daisy. L is lights. Excuse me. Turn on the headlight. Make sure you got a headlight. If you got high and low beams, check them both out. You should have high and low beams. That's low. That's high. Make sure they're aimed right if you can. You don't want them blinding other drivers or pointing off into the trees or whatever. Check your turn signals. Left. Both front and back. Right. Front, back. Brake lights. And if you can't see, like if you don't have a direct view to your brake light, you can kind of put your hand in front of it, and that'll help you see. And don't forget to check both your front brake lever and your brake pedal. You can either use your foot. Sometimes I walk, sometimes I just press it down with my hand, but I'll walk around this time and depress it with my foot. Brake lever or brake lights work. O is oil and gas. Most bikes will have a sight glass down at the bottom of the crankcase, and maybe on the clutch cover, like this one does. On this one, you can see that the sight glass is black. That's because my oil is black, and the oil is all the way to the top. Now, for many bikes, there's a specific procedure for checking oil, and it's going to be in your owner's manual or your service manual. So just looking at the sight glass alone doesn't tell you whether you have the proper level. There's actually a procedure. In the case of this Suzuki, This GS, you're supposed to start the engine cold, run it for a few seconds, shut it off, wait 60 seconds, and then look in the sight glass to see if it's between the full and the low mark. So that's one of the things I do weekly. And it has to be on the center stand, blah, 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 blah. So there is a procedure. Don't just look at the sight glass to check your oil. For gas, you want to make sure you have enough gas, right? That sucks running out of gas. In my case, I have a fuel gauge right there. I don't really trust it. I don't think it's that accurate. I also have a gas cap that I can just look in, take off, and you can see I have buttloads of gas in there because I just filled up not too long ago. So, gas, oil. O is oil and gas. TCLOC stands for, I think, controls. Controls and mirrors, let's say. So make sure your controls work. Make sure your clutch pulls in and it has the right amount of play. This clutch has just ever so slightly much more play than I would prefer. But I'm not going to adjust it right now. Make sure the brakes work, which you can test by getting on and rolling back and forth. That'll tell you if they're at least not completely inoperative. They may not work well until you get out on the road. Check to make sure you have enough brake fluid. You can usually see your reservoir. This one on mine, the fluid is between the lower and the upper. Check your choke cable works. And if you want to be really thorough, you can check to make sure the mechanisms on the carb move, if you have carburetors. Check to make sure your throttle opens smoothly, and then when you let go, it snaps closed. You know, don't crank it all the way open and then let go suddenly. That can be, if you do that a lot, it can be bad for your butterfly valves. But open it up all the way, make sure it's smooth, close it to maybe, something like a third, and then let go, and it ought to snap closed. If the throttle does not snap closed, that's a problem. Fix that bike. Actually, one of my when I was at the MSF course, I had a bike with a sticky throttle. And I was like, hey, this sucks. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're right. Let's get you a different bike. Kind of operate all the switches. Your horn, make sure your horn works. You basically want to make sure everything works. I mean, in a nutshell. Sit on the bike and make sure the mirrors are right. You'll want to do it when it's not on the center stand, of course, because that changes your angle slightly. And then S. The final letter is S. You know what? I don't have a clue what S S might be steering, but I'm going to go ahead and Google this because I think you deserve to know. Hang on with me. Yeah, t-clocs. That's what I meant to Google. Okay, I've been enlightened by the Googles. And S means side stand and center stand, which is kind of goofy. And also, I went a little bit out of order. I swapped the C's. Side stand and center stand. Okay, well, I guess those are supposed to work, but I mean, the fact of the matter is they're one of those things that pretty much never really fail. I guess just make sure they work. It'll be obvious if they don't, because your bike will fall down. I guess one thing is important. Make sure when you put up the side stand, it really does stay up. Because if the spring is broken or whatever and it flops back down while you're riding, that can be very unsafe. Because you'll go to make a left-hand turn, it'll hit the road, and then your rear wheel will lift off the ground, and it'll be ugly. So that, my friends, is how you do a pre-ride inspection of a motorcycle. Some things that I also check when I'm in the mood is I will sometimes also check to make sure that the gear shift lever works. Well, I guess you should have done that before, part of controls. But I kind of give a once-over of the... I'll take off the seat, and if there's a battery under there, I'll look at the battery. I'll take off the side covers, and I'll see what the electrics are all about to make sure that there's no charred wires, nothing's burning, nothing got disconnected. I'll take a quick look at the carbs, make sure nothing's dripping gas. Kind of look around the engine for oil leaks. I'll look for like maybe new scratches that weren't there before. I'll look at the exhaust pipes to see if they're turning blue, which could indicate that something went wonky in the carbs or air box, and now I'm running way lean. Take a look at the brake pads themselves, which I think you can see on this bike. I think you can see the brake pads pretty easy just by sighting down the rotor. On this bike, you have to remove this cover. And I just did that a couple days ago to see what the rear brakes look like. And it turns out those pads are just about worn down. Which, they were fine not too long ago. Well, a few months ago. So I think I have a problem with the brake caliper thing. Because those pads are wearing way too fast. So, yeah. Oh, and also I'll check make sure the cables, spark plug wires are on. They're good. I'll look at the cables that go up into the headlight bucket. So, yeah, that's about it. If you have any questions, leave a comment. It's been great chatting with you. Hope this... Whoa! Okay, tip. I almost dropped my bike just now. Have that side stand down whenever the bike is on the center stand. Always, always, always. Because how I do it, anyway, is I always take the bike down and then lean it immediately onto the side stand. Whew! That was almost bad. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Senior Office Bear, and some other stuff for your suggestion. As far as what to do a video on. I hope it was informative and useful. Hope that you did not fall asleep during it. And I hope you have a good day. Ta-ta. I'm going to go home now and have some din-dins.